What is going on, everybody? It is TripleCrown24 back with a new episode of the Sports Card Psychology Podcast, where we go inside the mind of the hobby. Today, we're talking about autographs. And, I've gone through phases where I've been kind of an autograph collector, so to speak. I'm not as into it as I used to be, but there are just so many different ways to build an autograph collection. And I've always been fascinated by the different ways that people choose to do it. One of the more unique ways, and one of the ways that I really respect, is kind of the approach that one of my good friends takes here. He really needs no introduction. I really hope he does the little thing with his hand if you're watching here on YouTube. But it is my good friend, Garrett CardCutter. There we
What
go.
is going on, you guys? How is it going, JT?
That's all I wanted out of this show, man. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up
Okay,
here.
the
Well,
end. Thanks for having me on. See you next time.
yeah. Well, man, I know you got a lot going on, so it does mean a lot to me that you would come on my goofy little show here and talk about some autographs with me for a while. But
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's get down to brass tacks, man. You're an autograph collector. There's no secret about that, and
hmm
I'm sure most of the people watching this or listening to this on Spotify, wherever you may be listening, know kind of your approach. But if you could, for those who are not familiar with you, give like a brief synopsis of how you go about collecting autographs. We'll talk about why in a minute, but just your overall approach to start.
Um, I've been collecting autographs since I was a little kid, probably 12 or 13 years old, and just something about the athlete touching that item and dropping some ink on that card has always really resonated with me. I always thought it was so cool because then when I see it in the future, it doesn't just it's just not an autograph item. It has a story. Where if you pull something from a pack, you'd be like, yeah, I was in Target parking lot when I opened this. Well, my story might be like, well, I was at the ballpark. This happened. I seen this in the game, so on and so forth. So they're almost like miniature stories to me, and it's kind of snowballed to something much bigger the older I got.
That's interesting you say that. I just feel that collectors in general, it could be whatever you collect. There's always a reason behind what you collect, and it's really about the stories. So, how you go about obtaining autographs, I would argue, isn't as prevalent as the people who go after like the pack pulled stuff, which is interesting to me just because I feel like what you do is a lot more personal. We'll get into all of that here. Let's just start very basic. Let's go through the different ways that we could obtain autographs. So you are more of a TTM private signing type of guy, but what are some other ways that people are looking to start or continue to build upon an autograph collection? Could they go about and do that?
Um, I think another one of the most common is what we call IP or in person graphing. And that could be something as simple as going to a minor league stadium. And if you have a minor league game on, or excuse me, if you have a minor league game, odds are between the home team and the away team, odds are there's probably a top 20 prospect of said team there. Um, so you can graph those, um, golf tournaments, so on and so forth. They just had the Tahoe Celebrity Golf Tournament, and it was like a who's who of the biggest names in all of sports was there. And so people went there and they racked it up, man. They absolutely killed it. And I'm more of a TTM guy or through the mail. I guess more commonly maybe called fan mail, where I mail an athlete a card and a letter and so on and so forth.
Yeah, IP, I'm sure a lot of you who watch YouTube autograph recaps, there are people who just do IP and they show off all the stuff they got signed at a game. Garrett does his TTM returns, and he's one of the best in the game, let me tell you. If you've never seen a card cutter TTM return video, you're going to look at yourself and go, how is this guy doing this? This is insane. I know that's how I was when I first discovered your channel many moons ago. Uh, in addition to that, there is, like you said earlier, the pack pulled stuff. And I think that's what a lot of people look for now when they say, I want to add a X autograph to my collection.
Right.
Usually they're talking about the pack pulled stuff. Outside of that, there is private signings. We kind of like briefly touched on that, where you can, similar to TTM, where you send in an item that you are paying for, or maybe you go to a public signing where Sometimes like a player will go to some local place and sign autographs for a couple hours. We see that kind of stuff too. Anything else that you can think of, or do you think that kind of encompasses all
No,
of it?
I mean, I really think that's just about it. But I mean, that's it, but that's a lot. Like,
Right.
so
Yeah. There's plenty of ways to go about getting in. Of course, buying the autographs on eBay as well. And we'll get into all that. But let's start with how you do it. So you do a lot of through the mail stuff, and you also do a lot of private signing stuff. And you kind of already answered this question, but I want to go a little bit more into it. Why do you prefer that method of obtaining your autographs rather than going the pack pulled company certified route, or simply buying something that's already signed and certified from, say, a Fanatics, a Beckett, any of those types of companies?
awesome question. So the reason I do it is because when you open up a pack of 2022 Prism and you pull a Trevor Lawrence signed card, like you have no say on that image. And I guess I even kind of simplify it more as these sports cards are photos. You know what I mean? And so, what I love about what I do, TTMing, if I go on the rare in person, is I get to pick the image that I want that athlete to sign. So, where if you were only collecting certified, you only have so many signed cards. Well, if someone like Wade Boggs that has thousands and thousands and thousands of cards, if there's an image that I like or a set that brings me back to, you know, nostalgia, my youth, I can get those cards signed. And so it's more than just I have a Trevor Lawrence. I have Trevor Lawrence on the image that I want. That's kind of why I do what I do.
I think that's an excellent point. That's how I've always looked at it too. Like one of my favorite pieces that I have in my collection personally was actually gifted to me, but it's Miguel Cabrera's snow home run from opening day. And it's this huge 16 by 20 autograph that's signed. And to me, that's always been one of my favorite pieces just because I remember that game so well. I remember that moment so well. And it tells a story. Whereas a lot of these cards, especially the sticker autos, which get a lot of criticism, they're a lot less personal. So I totally get that and understand that. In terms of being able to get some of your autographs that you go after, have you found any challenges in getting guys like through the mail or private signings where you have to kind of resort to going for the pack pulled stuff? Or do you just try your best to try to get it through the mail or through the methods that you more so like conventionally?
I would say these days, just about every athlete is doing signings. It might only be once a year, it might be once every 5 years, but just about every living athlete or celebrity is doing signings of some sort. I personally don't like certified autographs at all because I feel like there's a built-in cost to it already. And then I have to going back to the image thing, then I have to kind of be told like this is the image that you're kind of forced with. So like I don't know if I own any certified autographs, honestly. Um, yeah.
One of the things that always interests me when you're doing that, so I mean, part of it is that they hand sign your item, but I know that sometimes people will pay a premium to go to these public signings, or they buy tickets to go to a game to get something signed in person. And one of the arguments that you're paying for there is kind of this appearance fee or just the privilege of being able to meet the athlete. And for my interactions, I've never really had a deep conversation with an athlete that I've met through a signing. I've only been to a handful of them. But from what I have done in my interactions, it's just kind of more so a casual conversation, not really anything that's too in depth. You don't get too much out of it. What does that mean to you? Like when you're paying for these private signings, do you feel that it would be a little bit better if you could get to meet the athlete, or do you just kind of see it as more so transactional, where you just want to get your autograph and kind of get out the door? It doesn't, maybe you don't need to meet them and have this more shallow interaction.
Right. Every paid signing's different, and every paid signing's different because every athlete's different. I recently did an in-person signing with Randy Johnson at Frank and Sons down in Los Angeles, and he's kind of always been a ho-hum kind of guy. Like what you see is what you get. Like he's not exactly the life of the party, Mr. Personality, you know. And so I got up to the table and I told him, hey, I was born and raised in Houston. Like that half a year that you got traded from the Mariners to the Astros, you set the world on fire. And he like interrupted me and he's like, it wasn't even a half a season. And I was like, right, I know, but like you were just so awesome. Um, does anyone else ever bring up any Astros stories for that half a season that you were there? And he's like, I already told you I wasn't there for half a season. So like very direct. And I left feeling kind of goofy, honestly. But then the last time I went to the National, 4 or 5 years ago, I ended up getting Dave Robinson, his autograph, the Packers Hall of Famer. And there was nobody in line. And so he had a Super Bowl II ring on. And so I asked him, like, man, that's a really cool ring. And he just started talking to me about Super Bowl II and about the Ice Bowl and how it felt to get hit during the now iconic game, the Ice Bowl, and so on and so forth. He took his ring off. He let me put his ring on. So it's kind of, you just never know what you're going to get at a paid signing.
As soon as you said the line to Randy Johnson, I think anyone out there who's listening who's ever gone to a paid signing has probably said something that they're like, oh, when I say that, that was so stupid of me to say. So even when you're not getting autographs, the story that immediately came to mind is a couple weeks ago at the National, our friend Mike, baseball collector, we were at the Panini VIP party and Andre Reed was just standing there at the bar. And Mike asked him, like, oh, is that your Super Bowl ring? And if you know football, the Bills never won a Super Bowl. They lost 4 straight Super Bowls. So he's like, no, this is my Hall of Fame ring. And we were laughing about that later on. So, I mean, you haven't gone out to try to meet athletes or get autographs if you haven't said something stupid. I've certainly done a few of those in my time too. But you get those stories out of it too, and you get a laugh out of it. I'm sure they've heard much worse. So,
well, I mean, I look at it like for the paid signings, you're paying a premium, So the Randy Johnson signing, I ended up getting an upper deck rookie and like 3 inscriptions on it. So I paid out the wazoo. I'm into it now for $500. Well, you could go to eBay and buy that. You know what I mean? But I feel like since you are paying a premium, you might as well ask a question or two. It's there. They're going to be there for 20 seconds signing your item. So I kind of feel like that's the allure to me of doing in-person signings, because you're not saving money by doing it in person. It'd be cheaper to go buy it on eBay or from a dealer at a show, if you can find it. Or going back to the certified thing, it'd been way cheaper for me to buy a Randy Johnson certified autograph than what I did. But now, as silly as it is, now I have a Randy Johnson story.
that's fair enough. And you mentioned this. I think this is curious. So part of what you said was that you want to take the autograph that maybe depicts a moment or something in time, but also you're kind of paying for the experience. So which one do you put more of a premium on? Do you seek out opportunities to get something signed that maybe you don't have as much of a connection with that turns into a story? Or are you more so trying to kind of cap off a story that for the most part has already been written?
As far as like the storytelling goes, you just never know what's going to happen, and that goes with in person, paid signings, or what have you. So most of the time for a paid signing, I'm looking for a card that there isn't a ton of, and so you might say, well, Garrett, you do a ton of rookie cards. There's a ton of those, and yeah, you're correct, but there isn't a ton with 2 inscriptions. There isn't a ton with 3 inscriptions. So that's that. And then I think what's really cool about IP autographs or in-person autographing is you just never know what's going to happen. 3 months ago, I was in Visalia and Jordan Lawler was there. The Diamondbacks, one of their top prospects right now. I think he's like number 10 in all of baseball. And there was nobody there graphing. It was just myself and my son, Landon. And he walked up to us, and I read before I went to the game that he was from Texas. But the article didn't say where. And so while he's signing our item, I was like, oh, what part of Texas are you from? And he like lifted his head and his eyes got big, like he was so happy. And he was like, "Oh, I'm from the Dallas area." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm from the Houston area." And I'm thinking like this kid's, 19 years old, and he's in the middle of California, in the armpit of California, like just something that he could relate to. And now that's a super cool story that if he goes on to do bigger and better things, I can always be like, "Yeah, we met Jordan Lawler in Visalia and blah, blah, blah." There's that. Another cool story was in 1999 at the Astrodome, the Houston Astrodome. I probably went to like 30 or 40 games that year. Um, I had a vehicle, and it was like my junior year in high school. So any and all money I got, I went to the Astrodome, watched games, did IP autographs, went outside of the stadium to try to catch him in the parking lot. Well, like I said, I went to a ton of games, and I could never get Ricky Gutierrez's autograph. He was our starting shortstop at the time. Like I'm talking, I've probably gotten 20 Biggios, 20 or 30 Bagwells, you name it. Like I've gotten everybody, but I cannot get Ricky Gutierrez. And he came out finally. It was like the second to the last game of the season. He came out, jumped in his Mercedes, came up to myself and another guy, signed a card for me, signed something for him, and left. And I tell you that to tell you, I don't have any of those Bagwells. I don't have any of those Biggios anymore. I have that Ricky Gutierrez card still because of how much it meant to me getting it signed at the time.
Those are the kind of stories I love, and it's really cool. I want to go back to the Lawler story because, I mean, these guys. I think it's very. We talked about this in the show a few times before that we kind of put these guys on a pedestal. We view them as heroes in the sense that, a definition of a hero is someone who's able to do things that are extraordinary, things that are above what common person can do. And we kind of view our athletes as that, but at the end of the day, they're human beings as well, and they relate to the same things. And when you see someone like, hey, this guy's from my neck of the woods, we know. I mean, Houston and Dallas are quite a bit of ways apart, but still, I mean, the sentiment is there. Where, like you said, he's 19 years old. He's kind of out on his own. Like, just things that maybe you forget about when you're there, just because you might be caught up in the stardom. So I think that's incredibly cool. But I want to shift gears a little bit on that. So we talked about kind of the IP side of autograph collecting. It's not for everybody. Myself, I'm a bit of an introvert, so I don't like large crowds, so I don't necessarily like doing it as much anymore. I've done some through the mail stuff, and I kind of want to look at that. If you're someone who's a bit more of an introvert, um, how do you go about doing the autograph request? I guess just very briefly for those who might be interested in that.
Um, are you asking like where do I get the addresses and find out who's signing, or just how do I send a request out?
I guess just what's your process? Like, how do you choose who you're going to send to? I mean, the information out there on how to like obtain addresses and all that kind of stuff is probably something that you can Google, but this is more so like an answer from within. So, like, how are you choosing to go about collecting TTM autographs?
So I'm in a bunch of different Facebook groups. I also pay for the service on startiger.com, a service on sportscollectors.net. And so these are something as a TTM autograph guy, you just kind of check throughout the day willy nilly. You know what I mean? Like you check your email every now and then. I'll go check Star Tiger at night or see if anything new came in from another collector on sportscollectors.net and then go from there. There's times I'll be looking through some cards and I'll be like, man, that is a really cool looking card. Let me see if, this person signs. And every now and then you'll find like there's no successes. And you're like, well, hell. And I look at it like, if you go fishing, right? Like if you're into fishing, how are you going to catch that big fish? Well, you're going to catch that big fish by fishing, by casting that line out there. How are you going to get these big name guys? Like I've gotten Ichiro before. I've gotten Mike Trout before. I've gotten Tom Brady before. And the list kind of goes on and on. Well, the Tom Brady, I think I ended up getting him on like my 25th or 26th attempt. It was some crazy number. And I think if I did it for another 50 times, I probably wouldn't get them again. But for those big name dudes, if you don't throw the line out there, you're never going to get them. You know what I mean? You're not going to catch that big fish if you don't throw the line out there. So it's just really kind of what crosses my phone screen or my computer screen, or I'll be watching MLB TV and they'll show a highlight from like 1988 or something, and I'll be like, oh man, Bill Doran. I remember old Bill Doran. Man, I'd like a Bill Doran autograph. And then I'll go to eBay, search Bill Doran, see if I can find a cool picture, trading card, and then see if he signs and go on from there. There's really no science for me. Just kind of what I want, like what I want to collect, how I want to do it.
It's the best way to do it, right? Just listen to your heart, listen to your passions. One thing that you didn't touch on that I know that you're heavy into, and I think this is important too, because if you're looking for like more so direction, one of the things that you do is player era autographs of Hall of Famers. So what we mean by that is typically their tops cards all the way from their rookie to their final card every year, and trying to complete the whole run. And it's something that is, I think, has gained momentum. I know several guys who try to go after the same thing, and you have an entire catalog of videos on your channel documenting all the different players and all the different uh, ways that you got them. Sometimes it was through a signing, sometimes it was TTM. So why did you choose that project specifically for you? And how would you encourage someone to choose a project that works for them? Because maybe a player era thing isn't really working for them, but there might be something in essence that is similar to what you're doing.
So when I started the player era projects, I had never heard that term. I'm not saying I came up with it, but when the term player era project came across my mind, I'm like, that is something that's super cool. You know what I mean? So let's take someone like Tony Dorsett. He was signing autographs, or he was signing his fan mail at the time, but it's kind of the norm to send $20 and send one card or send two cards. And I'm like, well, hell, I could probably send, I don't remember the exact amount, but 15 cards and $300. You know what I mean? And then, like, I don't ever have to TTM Tony Dorsett again. And I have his whole catalog of player era cards. And it just kind of grew from there. And, after then, I started to want to get my player eras slabbed and authenticated. And it was really, really fun for a long time. It got to be pretty expensive sending out these large cash donations. And I can say, I think I ended up sending out, I haven't done one in forever. I think I ended up sending out around 48 player era projects. And the only two I never got back was Howie Long and Gary Zimmerman, the Vikings Hall of Famer. And Gary Zimmerman was actually my first player era project I ever did, and I never got back. As far as you were talking about giving people ideas for projects and such, I think if you TTM for a long time and you really enjoy it and you're passionate about it, you'll just kind of naturally come up with your own projects. I remember one project I did one year was, I called it Houston, We Have a Problem. And so I was sending to Rockets, Astros, Houston Oilers, Houston Gamblers, Houston Arrows, which is a minor league hockey team we used to have. I sent out to a couple of Houston Comets, the WNBA. And so because I'm from Houston and I've been in the military away from home for 20 plus years, it was super cool getting in all these Houston items. I did another project, and I don't know what crosses my mind sometimes, but a couple years ago I did where I wanted to get a whistle, like a coach's whistle from different coaches in the NFL. So I wrote like 15 or 20 different coaches and supplied the padded mailer for the item to come back. And I think I ended up getting like 10 or 12 whistles back. And with most of them had really cool letters. Like, I've been coaching for 30, 40 plus years and no one's ever asked. Like, super cool. And one last project I did that I think is kind of the one that I was actually the most proud of, which was probably the most expensive too, was I went through a phase where I was asking players for cleats. game use cleats. And through that, I ended up getting Luke Kuechly, Ryan Kerrigan, JJ Watt, just a ton of stuff. Now you're probably like, man, that's awesome. Like, holy smokes. Well, I guarantee if I were to sell all the cleats that I did receive, it wouldn't even probably make up for half of the money that I spent to make the entire project happen. But for me, it's not about ROI on the project. I just thoroughly enjoy the projects. Like, that's what makes TTMing fun and kind of keeps it going for me. Once I stop running out of projects or ideas, it gets very boring for me until I come up with another project.
That's super cool. Like sometimes I don't know what goes through your mind either, but hey, man, that leads to some great inventions. But like the whistle idea is super cool, and of course, when you're sending out padded mailers, it's definitely a lot more expensive than slapping a stamp on a PWE, getting that back in through the mail. And there are definitely a lot better ways in the hobby if you're looking to make money than to collect autographs. This discussion is more so around collecting. But I know that you did a video called "Can TTMers Invest" a while back, which I think is a very good look at kind of more so the financial side of the things that you like to do. So I'll refer people to that video for that discussion, and maybe that's something that we revisit on this show at a later point in time. But no, I think that's super cool. But I want to throw you a bit of a curveball here. So you have a lot of flexibility with the whistle project, for example, where you get to choose kind of the coaches. You get to choose the whistle that you want to send, as goofy as that may sound. Like you know, what kind of whistle do I want to send out? Do I get one with like a team logo on it? Do I get like some generic one? What color do I want? What kind of ink do I want? Whereas with your Topps Player Era projects, it kind of goes against what you said a little bit earlier when you were talking about kind of just being flexible and getting to choose the image you want. Because with the Player Era, if you want to get their Topps card, you are stuck with whatever that card is. And I'm sure not every single one is a winner. I know that there are certain cards where I go like, what were they thinking? Like I was looking at an Albert Pujols card the other day. I think it's his 2009 Topps, and he's like out like this, like linebacker pose in the field. Like why is Albert Pujols on a card like that, man? Come on. So not everyone is a winner. How do you kind of navigate that and like justify the cost in your head to send off those types of items rather than a card or an image that you more so like?
Well, I think the whole base for me on the Player Era projects was the completist side of me. You know, I talked about the Tony Dorsett Player Era project, and have I TTM'd him since? Yes, I have. But being able to do it and being done with that project, I don't know, it felt good to get done with that. Not also, I'm not gonna lie, I just spaced out, JT.
That's all right, man. I do that all the time on this show. People just don't know it.
Get me back on track, man. Bring me back in.
Yeah. So, I mean, with your, for example, with the Dorsett, I'm sure you don't love every single image that Tony Dorsett has ever been with a Topps card. So why you talked in a little bit about like the completionist, like you're trying to achieve this goal and that's why you're going for it. Would you say that is your sole motivation for trying to get these autographs on these cards that maybe you're not as big of a fan of?
For the Player Era projects, absolutely. But it's very much two separate things for me. So if a Player Era project crosses my mind, like in my head, yes, I have to get every single Topps card that was released when that player played. When did Topps quit making football cards? Was it 2016?
Yep.
Okay, so if it's someone like Drew Brees that played before 2016 and then played, you know, well after, then for me, my go-to after Topps quit making football is Prism, or Silver Prism to be specific. So yeah, I am kind of locked in on having to do that. But it goes back to me just being a completionist and having a sense of pride that I knocked out a project.
correct me if I'm wrong when I say this. So, I mean, for you, you kind of like to have it both ways, but for in terms of advice out there for people, if you're someone who just likes to be a free spirit, go with the flow, then maybe look for something like the Whistle Project. You don't need to do like something that's more so unique like that, but just spitballing it. Maybe if you're like a team type of guy, that more so resonates with me. So send out to athletes who played on your favorite teams, and you might be able to learn something about those teams that you didn't know as well. And then,
Right. I mean, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, and then just like with your player era runs, that's more so for the completionists out there. Like I'm a very goal oriented person, so I can relate to that as well. Trying to have a specific set of parameters and knocking those out one by one. So I resonate with that as well. But there's different ways to kind of go about it. You just have to choose what works best for you. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And collecting autographs, it's just like collecting certified stuff or pack pulled stuff. There's no rules. You know what I mean? There's no rules on how to collect or what to collect or what color ink I want on this card, or do I want a paint pen, or do I want a Sharpie, or do I want it signed in pen? And just to have the freedom to do whatever the heck you want to do because it's your collection and it's what makes you happy. It's really awesome. I know guys that collect index cards, you know what I mean? And I think personally, signed, well, not my collection, but that's people like when I got Bob Cousy to sign his rookie card. I sent that TTM, and the card itself cost me like $800. Well, people are like, "Oh my God! Like, why did you ruin that? Beautiful rookie card?" Well, because it was my rookie card to ruin. Like, that's what I wanted to do, and now I couldn't be any happier with the ink that Mr. Cousy dropped on it. Like, it makes me so happy every time I see it. So that's the beauty of collecting everything. Let's not even talk about autographs, just anything and everything. There's no rules to it. Just whatever you enjoy, do it.
Very well said. And I do agree there are no set rules, but there are, in some sense, some de facto rules when it comes to the pack pulled stuff. And I think that's a good transition point. So, this is something that you're not as into, but I think it's very relevant to this is that for those who want to stick with the certified stuff just because, and by the way, a little plug here, and I'll leave a link to this down below. I do PSA submissions. I get asked a lot, will you ever do a PSA DNA? And I will tell you the same answer every time that the guy to my right here on YouTube, or the guy who I'm speaking with, if you're listening on podcast, is the guy that I go to for all my autographs. He's who I send them to. He gets them slabbed up for you, Slab City Sports Cards. So in the description down below on YouTube, go check that out. And if you go to Garrett's channel as well, you'll be able to find him very easily. But Facebook group does a great job. So if you do decide to do anything that we've talked about for the last 30 minutes and you want to get your autographs authenticated, that's your guy. So
Thank you,
just go to,
JT. I appreciate that.
absolutely. And even if you want to get your pack pulled stuff slabbed up too, I know that I've done that. There are certain autographs or certain sets that have kind of become the de facto like best sets. I'll use air quotes with that.
Mm-hmm.
So you see something along the lines in baseball. There's really two for me in baseball. If you're talking about prospects, the first Bowman Chrome autograph
Yeah.
is your Grail card for a lot of the guys who debuted after 2000, generally speaking. Once they make their debut, the Topps Chrome rookie autograph seems to be the main one for a lot of guys. If you had to compare the two, the first Bowmans typically hold a bit more value, or at least that is the current trend. If you want to look at like a basketball or a football, kind of your grail there would be more so along the lines of the National Treasures true RPA, as they say. So there's different kinds of RPAs and National Treasures, but the whatever the true one happens to be that year is kind of the de facto thing. In kind of in your space, Garrett, the signed rookie card is king, it seems. Why do you think that these other sets have kind of become king in the other side of the autograph world in terms of pack pulled stuff?
I don't know. I mean, they're just two total separate entities. You know what I mean? In my experience, for the most part, autograph collectors aren't necessarily certified collectors, and most certified collectors aren't big autograph collectors. So I really can't even speak to why, the first Bowman is this and the first Topps Chrome autograph is that, because it honestly doesn't interest me. That's not my wheelhouse, you know what I mean? But I can speak to the signed rookie card, and I think that has taken a real wild turn over the past 6 years. I remember back in 98, 99, I'm 17, 16 at the time. And everyone was like, oh, man, you don't want to get a rookie card signed. Like, that's going to bring down the value. It was so taboo. You know what I mean? Like, people looked at you like you were crazy, man, if you got a rookie card signed. And now at these paid signings, rookie cards have their own fee. They're their own price for most athletes. Like, we'll take Joe Montana, for instance, at the National. He wanted, I believe it was like $175 to sign a card. And it said next to it, non-rookie. And then you look further down the list, and below jerseys, which means that it's even more expensive, is the rookie card. And he'll sign your rookie card for $700. Well, if you're hearing me, you're probably like, this is insane. It's the same signature. He makes the same motion with his hand. But now it's not taboo anymore. Now it's what most autograph collectors want, is to get that first rookie card. And I feel like it's a lot what certified guys want. They want their rookie card, but autograph seekers want that rookie card, but signed in person or TT and what have you.
I think that's a really good point, and especially for a lot of those guys, we're talking pre-2000 when we see pack pulled autographs really become mainstream, where every single box you're expecting to get at least one, if not more, pack pulled autographs, just depending on what you're opening. Joe Montana doesn't have a Topps Chrome rookie autograph, so I mean, if you want a Joe Montana rookie autograph, you really have one choice. You get the 81 Topps signed at a signing, or you buy one that's already signed and certified and all that goodness. So that for me, that's where I could see it coming from. We look more so into the future. Take, for example, Drew Brees. There was a card that I bought off of you that was the 2001 Bowman Drew Brees. And every time I showed that to someone, they thought it was kind of unique and cool, because most of the ones that I see signed that are done, in person, TTM, any of those, it's the Topps rookie that is signed instead of the Bowman. And even in 2001, there's multiple different ones. You look at now, there's so many different products and so many different rookie cards to choose from. On the more current guys, are you more so your bread and butter, where you continue that, if it's baseball, your Topps flagship? So when we say flagship, Series 1, Series 2, for NFL, Prism kind of being the new one that you were talking about. Do you like to stick to those, or is it more so that you kind of, again, expand into whatever sets you think are cool or whatever images you think are cool and all that?
No, so I like to stick to kind of what most collectors would consider like, oh, that is their no kidding rookie card. In football, it'd be like a silver Prism. Baseball, it might be Topps Chrome refractor. And, I like it because I guess I'm a child and I like the shininess, and it sure is pretty looking at it. But, I don't want to spend all this money on these cards and it be worthless, So I think by splurging a little bit more on these cards, paying a little bit more money for a bigger card, it also will hold a little bit more value down the road as well. But, if you can't afford, a Topps Chrome refractor for whatever reason, you can get a base. If it's NBA, you could go with hoops. You don't have to go with the biggest of the big.
I think that's a good point. And I've seen this too, where there are almost like niche communities within the autograph collecting sphere. Like, for example, Topps Heritage Baseball is one of those that people absolutely love to get signed. Allen and Ginter is another one that there is this subgroup of people who like to get Ginter stuff signed. And that one is kind of cool as well, because you get all the celebrities and maybe athletes from different sports that come in. Like, I know that there's a Floyd Mayweather won in one of the Ginters. There's like Manny Pacquiao. Trevor Lawrence was in it last year. Jalen Waddle was in it last year. So you mix in all these different sports, which I think is cool. So yeah, I think that's, you can keep it consistent, but you kind of get to pick and choose. And I was going to ask you why you choose the refractors, but yeah, I'm a sucker for the shine too. So I totally get that. I think that they really pop. In terms of the value of this, and a lot of what you're doing really isn't to make money. Like you're not trying to get these signed because, like we said earlier, there's a lot better ways to make money in the hobby than trying to go
Right.
through paid signings. You're going to lose very quickly when you are getting these signed, and say you get them slabbed up. Say that you were to send them to market, and these certified autographs don't necessarily sell for as much. Now, some of them do, like the signed rookies. Some of them are up there on par with the pack pulled certified autographs, but generally speaking, a lot of them are cheaper. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think when you're doing the paid signings, you're paying for that athlete's time. Where at the certified cards, this is just my opinion. I have no clue, honestly. But I think the pack pulled cards or the certified cards, when they're signing those, are typically signing hundreds and hundreds, or for the prospects, maybe thousands and thousands at any given time. And it seems like Panini or Topps is real happy to just slap a sticker, on a card, and you pull it and you're like, oh, I got an autograph. Well, in my opinion, you just got an autograph sticker. That card's not autographed. And that, I think, honestly, PSA, they think the same thing, because now when you send off something to get authenticated, it doesn't come back trading card if it's a sticker. It just says sticker, because that's what's signed is the sticker, not the cards. But I think the in-persons and the mail-ins are more expensive, because typically that athlete has to go somewhere. You have to fly them somewhere. Some of them get per diem. The autograph promoter or dealer will have to pay them X amount a day for food or what have you, or hotels. And so it gets real pricey real quick.
Totally agree with that. Things come up sometimes where people have to sell them. So when these autographs, say that you got, so and so signed, like a Justin Herbert, will take for example. I see a lot of prism based rookies of his that are signed in like the neon blue paint pen that I've
Mm-hmm.
seen put up for sale, but they don't command as much as say like the base prism auto that's like signed and issued into packs. So what is your opinion on why those go for less, and in some cases significantly less, on the open market?
So Justin Herbert, since he was drafted, has done a ton of signings. I mean, he's doing no less than 4 to 6 a year. I mean, it's a lot. Um, and these signed people getting their autograph, or excuse me, their rookie card signed, is becoming more and more prevalent. That's just something that people are really starting to like and see. I was told by a bunch of my friends that went to the National, and JT, you might have seen it yourself, that there was more in-person or paid signing autographs in people's showcases than ever before. But Justin Herbert specifically is, I mean, I don't know how many silver signed prisms he had that Panini released that are pack pulled, that are certified, but he has been signing a ton of his base rookie or silver prism. And so honestly, for Herbert specifically, I just think the market's flooded on him. And that's why, there's not a lot of the price is so much different.
I think that's a good point. Let's explore like maybe someone else, and perhaps the ones that are more readily available. It's because of the private signings. I mean, that would make sense to me. But someone who may not be as readily available, why would you think that they're? Let's go with like a. You know more about the private signings than I do, so I'm just spitballing a name here of someone who I've sold an autograph of. Fernando Tatis Jr. I had sold an IP autograph of his that was slabbed and certified by Beckett, and it went for probably 60% of what the signed equivalent of that card would go for. So an example of that, let's just pretend that there's not as many of them out there. Why would you think that is?
Um, I mean, for one, I think there's more people that collect certified, than just base autographs or in person or paid signing autographs. I mean, I don't have any numbers to back that up, but you and I have hundreds of friends in the hobby. And I would say for me personally, I probably have 10 to 15 of them that collect, how I collect, where the vast majority of them are certified guys because that's what they love to collect. So I think that's why. Another thing that can bring down an in-person or paid signing autograph, a lot of times it could be just on eye appeal alone. If it's a dark card and you get it signed in black and you can't see 70% of the signature, no one wants that. You know what I mean? So a lot of it's eye appeal also, or maybe he was signing with the marker and the marker went out or the Sharpie went out. And so it's really faded, or there isn't, a beautiful pen stroke because the ink went out in that area. So there's honestly a bunch of different reasons why that could be the case.
Yeah, if anyone at Panini is listening, can we get Mac Jones a new Sharpie? Because that guy, like every single autograph of his I see, has got streaks in it. Maybe he needs to learn how to hold the pen differently. No, all jokes aside, no disrespect to Mac Jones, but yeah, I totally get that. I feel that there's more subjectivity in the sense where it's not as cookie cutter as your sticker autograph, sign the sticker, move on to the next one, which is a bit of a downside if it doesn't come out so hot. Like you did a video recently, not to put anyone on blast, where you got some Jesse Ventura's back and didn't come out so hot. And that I kind of heard. But I mean, there's also been examples where I've seen you get stuff back and it looks absolutely beautiful, maybe looks even better than expected. But again, that subjectivity, I think, comes with the territory of the freedom that you have. You got to pick the item. Ideally, you get to pick where it's signed and what kind of ink is used. How much control you have over that is a case by case situation, of course. But yeah, I totally get that, and I think that kind of comes with the freedom. So to kind of close up shop here on this show today, I think that we really did a good job of exploring the different sides of it, or at least I'm going to think that we did. And anyone who disagrees can let me know. But in all seriousness, I think we kind of examined both ways. How do you go about building an autograph collection, building upon one or starting one? What would you say is kind of your just general advice that could be blanket applied in determining, do I want to go the pack pulled route? Do I want to go the IP route? Do I want to mix them together? How do you form your identity as an autograph collector?
I mean, that's going to be on you. That what you collect, that's 100% on you as the collector. I can't tell you to do what I do because not everyone enjoys how I collect. But you have to find out what brings you joy. And if it's certified and it's opening those packs and chasing those autographs that way, then by all means, go right ahead. But if it's paid signings, then, subscribe to a lot of these websites where these promoters are putting up their paid signings, or to these Facebook groups where these promoters are putting their paid signings. If it's in person, minor league games, that's pretty cheap in-person autographing. And that's a great way for anyone to get in the door. If you're into baseball, you know what I mean? If you're into football, it might be a little bit tougher. You might be able to go to like training camps, NFL training camps and such. A lot of those NFL players are known to sign at those. So it's really, there's no good answer for this because it's just simply what you want. What you want, collect that.
That's ultimately what it boils down to on this show, I feel. But I mean, the way that you talked through it, I think, is very informative for anyone out there to determine like kind of like what route they want to go. I mean, like for me personally, I love like the whistle idea. I had forgotten that you had done that before you mentioned that. That to me is like it kind of makes me want to go out and find a signed whistle. I don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole though. So next thing you know, I'll be the whistle guy. But yeah, I think that what you said is fantastic. I echo that sentiment perfectly. So kind of to wrap up the show here, I always like to have the guest kind of explain where they can find you. I promoted the Slab City Sports Cards group a little bit at the start of the show, but kind of in your own words, tell the people more so about what you do, and then after that, we'll talk more so about you as an individual.
So Slab City Sports Cards, it's a group my wife and I started about 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And so, you've heard of group submissions that like JT does through SGC or PSA. And it's the same thing, but it's for autographs. It's PSA DNA. So by sending your items to me, I'm lucky enough that I get a better rate through PSA than if you were to go directly. So you just mail them to me. I do the work. You send the funds via check, PayPal, what have you, and then you just sit back and wait for the cards to show up at your mailbox. We've really built quite the community there, and a lot of people just cheer people on what they get in and comment very cool stuff. Very rarely, in the Slab City group are people asking, "Hey, is that for sale?" or "How much is this?" or that's kind of not really what it's about in that group. I have no clue how we grew that organically, but it's really a group of like championing each other on and pushing each other to do cool stuff and just praising people's collections.
I will 100% testify to that too. I mean, your group is unlike most that I see, including my own, in terms of building a community. So even if you're just someone who maybe you're looking for more inspiration after listening to this, just go in there. And I mean, Garrett posts like the cards that everyone sends in, and some people post some really cool stuff that they're getting autographed. Like you can go get inspiration from some of those things, and maybe it gives you ideas. So definitely check that out. I will leave a separate link in the description for that down below, and then I'll leave a link to Garrett's YouTube channel. So you're on YouTube, as the name that you see there, CardCutter, will also be in the description of the podcast form of this. But are you on any other social medias where people can interact with you?
No, I'm on Instagram. I'm trying to build that, so you can find me there under Slab City Sports Cards or Card Cutter. If you search either one, it comes right up. But that's really it. I'm not a huge social media guy. I have a Twitter, but I'm not active on it. Yeah, so that's that. But I do have one more kind of point, JT. I know you're trying to wrap it up, but I do have one more point I would like to bring up about the signed rookie card. If you know where we're at right now with these signed rookie cards and versus where we were 5 years ago, it's leaps and bounds different. There's way more people collecting these TTM in-person paid signing autograph rookie cards than there were 5 years ago. And I think in 5 years from now, you're going to see something very different where it's even more. And the reason I say that is because you're starting to see promoters now, like Ryan Fitterman of Fitterman Sports, who has an exclusive with Pete Rose. He has an exclusive with The Undertaker, so on and so forth, where you are not allowed to send in a Pete Rose rookie card for any Pete Rose signings. All of the promoters say no rookie card. Same for Undertaker. He just now, for the first time in 3 years, just did a signing where he was accepting cards from 1991 because that's the year of his rookie card. I think you're going to start seeing that more and more and more, where getting a signed rookie card is going to be more expensive than getting a jersey, bat, full-size helmet signed, because more and more people are sending them in and more people want them. And so the reason I tell you that is if anything in this whole conversation interests you about maybe getting some of your favorite athletes signed rookie cards, you might want to do it now. You may not want to sit and wait for a couple years down the road, because you might be paying a whole lot more then, or possibly, depending on how big the athlete is, the opportunity may not be there. You can buy signed Pete Rose rookie cards through Ryan Fitterman, but you're going to pay through your teeth. But you can't mail in yours, that means a lot to you, that your dad gave you or grandpa gave you or something like that. So it's just something to think about.
I think that's an excellent point. I'm glad that you said that too. I think that's a very key takeaway. I'm going to piggyback one thing on that is you mentioned a guy like Pete Rose. I mean, these guys are getting older. We've seen a lot of baseball Hall of Famers. They're no longer with us when they were just 3 years ago. So if you're waiting and waiting and waiting, these guys, they don't live forever. Nobody lives forever. So, your opportunities to get them signed, like even a guy like Willie Mays, who is still with us, he's kind of retired from that kind of life where he's not doing signings and that kind of stuff. So kind of what's out there is out there. And there's only a finite number of those. So get your chance now to create one or go buy one before it may be too late. So I'll add that in there. But that's gonna wrap up the show. Garrett's one of my really good friends, so I'm very glad that I finally could afford to pay his appearance fee to come on my show and talk about autograph cards with me. It wasn't cheap, so hopefully it will be well worth it to you guys. But no, in all seriousness, Garrett, thank you so much, man, for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was a lot less painless than I thought it was going to be. So I don't do a lot of these, but this was nice.
Yeah, I didn't interrogate you too much, but get ready for the next one, man, because your ass is on the line next time, man. But,
you got it, man.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this week's show. Next week's show should be interesting with football ramping up. I want to talk about quarterbacks and this phenomenon that's been kind of going on that I call the arms race and the interest in all the different young quarterbacks out there, and a bit of a cautionary tale on why you might want to curb your spending if you're more so looking to invest in those quarterbacks. I'm going to show you some data and might open your eyes a little bit as we ramp up the football season. So until next time, take care, stay safe, be kind.